For those serious about the sport of fitness, now is the time to build strength, gymnastic skills, and improve your overall capacity. We have divisions for RX, intermediate, masters, and elite athletes. For more information, go to trainingthinktank.com.
Did we really start? Is this it? We're rolling, baby.
We done started.
Oh, he already hit record.
All right. There's, just for the audience, there's no plan for this that I've been given, at least. It was just...
there's no plan for me either.
We just sat down. We're given some mics.
No plan A, no plan B.
We're just rolling with it. We got about 30 minutes, and we're going to roll.
We do have some Instagram questions.
Okay, I was going to ask what they wanted us to talk about.
Well, first you got to answer my question.
Oh, what's
I already
new?
asked you. What's new, man?
Yeah, well...
Give the people some
I think on
insight.
the last podcast at quarterfinals, Max and I did a quick one, I think. Didn't we?
Yes, sir. Yes,
we did.
sir.
I said I was married,
Well,
so that's
I wasn't on that.
It's not as new anymore, but...
Me too.
2 months in, it's pretty fun. Wedding band, knuckles.
Unite.
So that's been awesome. Other than that, nothing's really new, which I think sometimes seems lame to say. You're like, oh, there's nothing new going on in my life. But when your life is pretty good and it hasn't changed, I guess that's a good thing, right?
Got nothing to complain about.
You got a new training partner, Annika Greer, who was on an episode. They'll come out soon. Or maybe it's already out. You never know.
Wow. Yeah. AG, me and AG and JB and AH are throwing down on a daily basis.
Wow. Nice.
All of that.
Yeah.
Well, TM's just up here by himself, trademarking.
We miss you, dude. We got to work out together for the first time since Wadapalooza on Monday.
That was.
You still a little sore?
I am. I'm still very sore.
Felt
it was good. I mean, I've been running just because I'm still trying to accomplish my goal of like hitting a sub 5 minute mile. So running, of course, felt good. The sandbag was not light at all.
You're still
I still feel pretty
that.
fit
Yeah.
at some things. But even just a minute ago, I did a 100 cow ski, 100 toe to bar, and the toes to bar did
Your
not
abs
feel.
are going to be destroyed.
They were. I did 6 reps and then I dropped. So it was definitely not an ideal situation. But yeah, it was good to just kind of be back in the like competition feel and environment. I think you kind of start to miss out on that. I think for a while it was kind of nice, honestly, just like stepping away and having some time to like reflect and deal with everything that's going on with the hand, but then to like now get to the point where it's like, oh, I kind of like miss hanging out with people. I like miss competing and like doing that. So to have that on Monday was a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of the hand, we didn't have both. So it's been 5 months ago was Wadapalooza. How do y'all look back on the Wadapalooza team run? Y'all were going for it, trying to be return champs.
I got hurt. We lost.
Yeah, it's probably bittersweet for both of us. Wadapalooza sucked.
No. I think it's always fun competing together, regardless, like, if we won or lost, like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like, in hindsight now, like, you don't even really think, like, oh, we won, we lost. Like, that doesn't really happen. I'm more just like, well, I got injured, which kind of sucks, and that kind of, like, set the tone for the season. But, I mean, I still had a lot of fun at Wadapalooza the whole time. I enjoyed it.
No, it's looking a little different.
No, I definitely had fun in moments. Like it's awesome to hang out with your buddies. I think from my perspective, coming into this year, there was a bit more pressure because we had won last year. So like that expectation was there, and I felt that. Whereas last year it was very
just do whatever.
Free, no expectations, and I feel like we were having a blast the whole time. It was like euphoric. And this year there was a lot of like, oh, we didn't do as well as we wanted to here. What did we mess up there? Like,
well, I feel like there was also a lot of judging confusion.
Yeah.
Appealing multiple workouts, having the wrong scores.
It just felt like
it was a lot of like
tension. I felt tension all weekend.
I mean, even the first one, the chest to bar one, where we were visibly pretty far ahead and then ended up winning, but then somehow someone had a rower mishap and then they crossed the finish line first, and then it just kind of like it takes that like excitement of crossing the finish line first. Like regardless if they go back and fix it, that still feeling of crossing the line first is a much better feeling. And then like you get to do it with all your buddies. And
so all three of y'all are individual athletes. So when you have that tension and it's happening as a team, is that tension different solo than when you're with a group having to manage everyone else's expectations?
Yeah, I think this is probably a cop-out answer, but I think it's like better and worse. It's better because you don't have to live it alone. Like it's a shared experience, and so you have somebody that you can relate with, and they can maybe make you feel better by saying something. But it also is worse in the sense that like when you let somebody down by making a mistake, like it feels a lot worse because you're like,
so it's like
didn't just do that to myself.
Yeah, it's just amplified. Like the effects on some things. If I do well, it's almost like more amplified of like, oh, I'm really excited. We all just did that and accomplished that. And then
the highs are higher and the lows are lower a little bit.
Good way to put it. But I think, it's definitely roller coaster of emotions. But I think we all experienced that all weekend, from where I thought I was dying after the first workout, and then just the whole weekend of just a lot of ups and downs. But I think overall it was still a good experience, and I'd run it back.
Yeah, well, so we know how it ended for you. Heading out of that competition for you, Noah, how did that put that's the start of the season kind of. How did that flavor it?
Yeah, I think I felt fine physically, like not just from an injury perspective, but fitness-wise. Felt like I was in a relatively good place. I had obviously made the mistake on the lift, and that cost us. So mentally, I think I had to try to find a way to like recover and heal and cope with that, even though it's not that big of a deal. But that was like my process afterwards, whereas Travis is figuring out how to deal with his hand and what his season's going to look like. I kind of was just mentally figuring out how I wanted to reframe that and move on from it. And what are we now? You said 5 months out?
Yeah, we're about to be in May, so.
We had, I think the only competitions that have happened since Wadapalooza have just been the Open and quarterfinals.
Yeah. Nothing else since.
So coming from that, y'all were talking about being on the team. One of the main questions on Instagram, obviously, that we got was, will y'all do team? So, Noah, you've alluded to this being your last season, but you've hinted that it could be.
Yeah, my last individual season is the plan.
He's going to keep going.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I don't know. Somebody.
Would y'all ever do team?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to it if I had the right people. For me, it's I want to do it. If I'm going to go team, I would want to do it with a group of people that I would really enjoy going on that journey and kind of like experiencing that side of things. If it was just like, hey, let's throw a team together right quick just so we can make an attempt, I wouldn't really want to do that. So I feel like if I found the right team that everybody would want to go that route, then I would be all for it.
I think people are probably wondering too if we would ever do team together, and I think we would love to. I just don't know if logistically it makes sense. Like, we both have homes that are pretty deeply rooted in different states, and so
I think from the format of how things are this year, where it's just like you just have to show up at whatever gym you're training at, I feel like I know you well enough and how you move, and it doesn't, you could be separate.
Oh, really?
You just had to do all the workouts at the same facility, right? Isn't that how it works?
I think
this
so.
year?
I think it changed back to where you could have like a super team kind of thing.
So you
going.
can technically still have that super team.
All right, well then
it
maybe
would just
Travis
be like go to wherever the venue actually is. But I think Chandler's the next one in line.
No, I think the only reason that Chandler and I had spoken about it is because
can you believe it, people?
He had
me to the curb.
Travis got his own team at home.
Right, with the whole family. No, I think Chandler had the willingness and ability to be able to move and potentially come to Miami so we could not just compete together, because I thought that was the ruling, but also train together.
But it's also CrossFit.
Yeah,
they change the
changes
rules
a lot.
pretty frequently.
Yeah. So I don't know. As of right now, I think Chandler and I have spoken about maybe going team next year. I have no idea who the girls would be. He's also having an interesting season, though. Similarly, has a hand injury. I don't know if that's going to impact his trajectory career-wise of like, well, I thought this was going to be my last individual season, but it didn't go the way I wanted it to because of this injury. I want to give it one more go, and then that would change things for me. So
the whole setup for
So now that y'all have been...
So hold on. If he
go
didn't go team, right? If he didn't, Chandler,
if he doesn't, do you
Chandler
want
man,
to?
would you go to individual? Like, would there be a way that you would do individual one more year? Right? So you're like...
I think it's possible, yeah. Yeah. I actually do.
like
Yesterday,
one of those on the buttons.
I do think that yesterday I felt a push in that direction. Talking Elite Fitness, I think, posted a clip, and the caption said something about potentially qualifying for 10 games this year and like matching that accomplishment as Ben Smith has done. And that made me feel like, oh man, I felt like I want to be the first to ever have done something. And so 11 would be like, nobody's ever qualified 11 times in a row. And honestly, it also
Here
does.
you go, ladies and gentlemen.
But if you go to 11, you might as well go to 15, right?
I agree. Just go roll from individual right into masters. But with the whole Ben Smith thing, and people can debate about this on the internet, it kind of comes down to, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Not the verbiage, but the... there's a phrase for this and I can't think of it. The way that you phrase it, though, he didn't qualify for 10 in a row, I believe, because in 2009, I think you could just show up and compete.
At the ranch, yeah.
And so he went from 2009 to 2019. So he's done 10 games in a row, but nobody's ever qualified for 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
Little distinction
Yeah,
there.
but
I feel like
that's
that would
also
slap more if it was one of those deals where he could have qualified but didn't. But if it didn't exist,
yeah.
it's kind of like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I see
Anyway.
But I get what you're saying, though.
I
Yeah,
see
yeah.
he's been 10 times, but didn't have to qualify those 10 times to get there.
Yeah. So anyway, to answer the original question,
You possibly.
maybe. I don't really want to. I don't think like it's nice to have like an end in sight for you to make the firm decision. Like or asking you this hypothetically, like would you rather have finished last season and have said solidly like, hey, I'm done. I'm stepping out after this one, versus having done last season, planning on doing this one, and then be taken out by injury?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good
Wouldn't
question.
it feel good to like go out on your own terms? People
Yeah, and
say,
I think
kind
that's
of?
I mean, I think even that would be like this probably would have been one of my last, maybe one more after that kind of like run. But for my own personal self, I'm doing another one, like just for me.
Yeah.
Of like wanting to, I don't want to go out that way, and rather. I feel like you can also, even if you know it's going to be the final one, you can just soak it up more and
Totally.
kind of enjoy the whole experience and all of it. Not saying that I haven't in the years past, but you just put all these other pressure, expectations versus just like, I'm going there and I'm just going to give my best knowing like I may never get to do this ever again, which should be the same mentality you carry every year, but it's just different.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But I think in hindsight, I'm glad it happened, like the injury and everything. I think it like allowed me to kind of like refresh and start over
The
to a
timing
degree.
of it was good.
Yeah, and it was also like, it was sucky timing, but also I feel like good timing of, it's just, there's nothing you can do right now. Like you just have to accept it. And I think handling the adversity, really seeing if this is like what you want to keep pursuing and doing, and now like missing it, wanting to
Reality check.
kind of get back into the group and do the sessions. Like for me, that's the fun stuff, and not being able to do that is definitely like a bummer. But I think it's also allowed me to prioritize other things in my life and enjoy some different areas.
Nice, man. What else do you guys want to talk about?
So y'all both been at the pretty high on the individual level. So you've checked that box.
No, we have been, yes.
Yep. So you've
Not
checked
pretty-
that box.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wait,
Anything else we should add?
have we been?
I'm just kidding.
So Noah, you've stood on a podium. Travis, somewhere.
I stood on one
is that what you
before
guys were doing? I
No,
couldn't tell what was going on over there.
I was just kidding.
got it.
So you've been pretty high level.
Yeah, baby.
Point taken. Since you've been able to check that box, does the idea of teams seem, is it like intriguing you, or is it just like, well, it's what I can do?
Definitely. I'll be honest. I don't know if you mind me jumping in on this one.
Go for it.
My pursuit over the last decade, for the most part, has truly been with the belief and the desire to win the CrossFit Games. In the last couple years, looking at the leaderboard, lifestyle, like other factors, that has felt less possible. And so my belief has kind of waned a bit in my ability to win the CrossFit Games as an individual. I think that stepping into the team's world, that would bring this like renewed sense of possibility and belief. Like I think I could put together a team that could win the gold medal at the games. And so now there's this almost like new exciting challenge that I can step into and like put everything into, versus like, you've been trying to win the games as an individual for the last 10 years. Like at a certain point, you kind of got to give it up, bud. It's not going to happen.
No, I mean, I think I can agree with that. Yeah, you chase after something for so long, and then now you have another opportunity to potentially win in another kind of like format. I think it still creates a new level of excitement that it's just refreshing, right?
Totally.
Like it's the same thing of being on the same path that we've both been on for 12 years of doing to try to accomplish, have your best finishes, podium, whatever, and then to like kind of fall short or not do what you want. I think
fatiguing.
Yeah,
emotionally, mentally.
And it's hard. And I mean, it's not like our sport is a comfortable sport to do. It's not like, oh, let me just go out and swing a golf club. Like that's not the same.
Shots at golf.
Well, it's not shot. I play golf like 5 times a week right now. But it's just different. Like the stress on your body of that, like that's very mental, challenging, and probably one of the hardest sports to master and figure out. But from like physical pain and discomfort that we put ourselves through every single day. It's hard.
Yeah.
So like when the fire starts to drift away a little bit, like it's harder to dig in each time and know what you have to do. And that stuff's challenging.
For sure.
And to do that over 12 years. And now if you were switching that mindset to like, oh, well, let's go the team route, you still have to train just as hard, but knowing that you have other people with you that are on the journey, it
Getting
just
that
makes it
belief
more
back.
enjoyable.
Yeah, the belief is the biggest part. Because as you were just saying that for me, I was thinking, or as you were just saying that, I was thinking that that is true, that you have those days when you wake up and like, as I got further down that road and started waking up feeling like, man, I'm tired. Do I want to go into the gym and push? Years past, it was like, yes, you do, because you have this opportunity to maybe go and be the fittest man in the world. And when that belief started to fade a little bit and you had those doubtful mornings, it's like, do I want to go beat myself up when the possibility of achieving that goal that I had set out to feels less realistic? Well, not as much, really. Like, I didn't have as much of a why.
How long did
I
that
think
battle go on?
I feel like just kind of the last 2 years it's been going on for me. 2021, when I came up here and spent 6 months training with you guys, it was like a really, really great run. Then I had a couple little health issues. So the 2021 games didn't go that well. That was the first reality check for me where I was like, dang, first time I think I finished 10th that year, where I felt like I was drifting down a little bit. And then last year, 2022, was another mediocre year performance-wise for me, and it just felt like that was when I started having to have that conversation with myself of like, do you still got it? And if you don't, then what do you want to, like, get off the hamster wheel, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I feel the same way, just in a lot of areas where I think we do the same thing just all the time, where it's just like, I want some variety. I want to mix it up.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was like constantly happening. Like, even me and Max talked, he's like, well, if you're wanting to continue, you need to snap out of it or whatever. And I'm like, I just need a break. Like, I just need time off. Like,
we could both probably compete for another 15 years. Like, I think we could probably compete until we were at the Masters category and then go into Masters. But it's like, do you want to just have this long, mediocre, exhausting career, and like finding those ways to take breaks, keep things fresh, find new motivations?
I think that's what keeps you hungry.
Yeah, more
and
sustainable,
allows you
more
to
enjoyable.
Like keep enjoying the process and coming back and like really pushing yourself all the time versus like, I could see when you guys were doing that last sprint, like you and Jake know exactly what's about to happen, like the feelings, and you can see it. And then you see some of the other ones are like, I don't really know what's about to happen. They're just like still young in the sport. Like, oh, let's just go for it. But like, you can tell the difference of like the pressure, the anxiety that builds up. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's exactly just like when you're younger and you're hungrier to go about it, it's easier versus like, I've done this so long, like, oh, I know what this is about to make me do. But I think being able to still challenge yourself and push past those limits is what allows you to keep getting better and improving. And I mean, I think we've constantly kept doing that for 12 years that we've been in it this long, where a lot of people was like, I'm in and out. It's like, okay, well, we've lasted this long. It's great, but I'd like to go out on a better note than what took place this year. And
that's
the way with like the hand, and
you deserve that.
And you're starting to get back to it. You did a barbell the other day.
Did a barbell the other day. I did some push-ups for the first time yesterday.
Dang, he's hitting them with the push-ups, y'all.
Yeah, it was a very
baby.
intense moment because I like got down very slow and just sat there for a minute. I was like, I'm gonna try push-up.
Proud of you, man.
Thanks, man.
Nice.
Thanks.
Well, I know you got a coach here in a second, so let's just answer a couple of these Instagram questions.
Yeah.
One is from our
Us.
very own Chris Ensign out there.
Oh,
probably training
big
now.
owl, big owl.
Was there a specific point in time, moment, and or workout where you knew you could make it in the sport? AKA, like, I can hang with the elites. If so, what was it?
I don't think there was a specific workout. I think it was probably just the intent and focus I put onto training, knowing where I knew metrics were of athletes that qualified for the games. I think I kind of like saw where my numbers were trending and kind of where some of them were at. And I was like, I think if I like perform and show up, then.
And when you saw that data, you kind of like flipped the switch to like, oh.
Yeah, but I think honestly, ever since I've been in CrossFit, or since I even started, like when I first watched the videos of Chris Spieler and all the guys at the ranch, like literally the first time I ever did it, I was like, I'm going to go to the games. Like I dedicated my like life immediately to that point, changing the way I ate, training, getting a coach, all of that. So I don't think there was a point, and I think based off of where the sport was in 2011 to where it is now is completely different. But in that point, I was like, I'll make it. Like, I will.
But there was
make
no
the games.
moment of confidence, or I guess you just said like when you saw the numbers trending.
I think just seeing numbers, you start executing on workouts, you start doing things that, I mean, back in 2013, like snatch 275, clean 370, front squat at 425, and back then, those numbers weren't being touched very often.
Those numbers still aren't touched very often.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, like we're trending in the right direction of where I need to be to like qualify, which that year I ended up qualifying and stuff. But I think it's just putting in the work and seeing the progress get closer and closer and closer, and knowing mentally that you can do it.
What about you? Did you have a moment?
I have a pinpoint.
Ooh. Here you go, Chris Ensign. Get out of here with all that.
Yeah, he said
airy
Chris.
stuff.
Why'd you say Big Al?
Well, because there was he did a demo, and we talked over it, and no one knew how to pronounce his last name.
Okay,
and I was like, Einstein, Inston, no one knew. And then
Oh, I don't think I
was
still
like-
know how to pronounce it.
I think that's right. And then
don't think
I was
so.
talking about it on the gym floor with him. I was like, oh, yeah, like Albert Einstein. And then it just turned into, hey, Big Al.
Big Al. Okay.
there we
Got
go.
it.
I don't
know
I
why.
thought you just misheard Chris. I was like, he
All
said
right.
Chris. You
Drum
said
roll
Al.
back to the moment.
Anyway,
The moment was.
so the year that you qualified for the
right,
games
baby.
in 2013, that's when I knew.
Southeast Regional?
Yeah,
That's
Southeast
it.
Regional 2013.
Deadlift box jump.
I got my butt kicked by the deadlift box jump workout.
I remember.
I think I came in like last place. Prior to that, I might have been in first place. I was
You
in,
were doing very
I was
well.
in contention. That one rocked my world, took me out of contention. The next year, I believe, in the open, there was a workout that was deadlifts at an ascending weight and box
jumps.
jumps. I think
Yeah.
that was all it was.
It was the 135, 85, 225.
It ended
whatever,
at 365. And
I remember that workout.
I did really well for myself. I think I remember getting the seam score as Jason Kalipa, which was crazy because I hadn't qualified for the games yet, so he was
Yeah.
still like one of my idols. And deadlifts were what kept me from going to the games. So I performed really well there, and I was like, all right, that's it, game over.
That's crazy. So you had already been to regionals, but it was still down the line is when you had your big moment.
Yeah, I'd been to regionals twice at that point, and that was, I feel like, a moment where I was like, okay, now I can really hang with the big dogs and maybe qualify for
Yeah.
the games.
That's cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
What else you got out there, audience?
Let's see. We got one from non-context Jack. I think that's how you say it. When is too late, quote unquote, to set competitive goals like making semis? And did either of you ever have a backup plan if you didn't make it in CrossFit?
Rock, paper, scissors on who answers first.
Shoot. Ooh, 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Mm.
Paper
Yeah,
covers
you
rock.
win.
You lose.
Go ahead.
What were the questions?
Want me to go?
When is too? Yeah. No, take it away.
Okay. When is it too late to like start making goals, like qualifying for a semifinal or whatever? And
Did you have a backup plan
did
if
you
it
have a
didn't
backup
work
plan?
out? He
Go.
was going to take it.
Same time.
Well, he started
Same time?
repeating it
3,
like he
2,
was
1,
go.
So when I didn't really have a plan or a backup plan in that case because the year that I qualified for the first time, I was graduating from the University of Miami the year that I qualified. I missed my master's graduation to compete at regionals in 2014.
Good for you.
And so basically it was like, if I qualify, I'm just rolling right into that. If I don't qualify, well, I just got a master's degree from UM, so I'll probably look for a job in like strength and conditioning coaching at a university or something and continue to pursue CrossFit. But didn't really have to make a plan because I qualified when I graduated and got to just do that pretty full time. And that was right around when sponsors were starting to actually pay athletes. And I feel like I got lucky with that timing. To answer the original question there, when is it too late? I do think there's an answer to this. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think there are people that are pursuing trying to make the games, and like, I would never want to tell them, but sometimes you'll see somebody that spends all day in the gym training and that's their goal. And in the back of your mind, you're like, dude, I'm so sorry, but I feel like you're kind of wasting your time. Like, I love the dedication, and I think it's really commemorable. That's not my words are not working as well. What's the word I'm looking for there?
You sold your soul on that workout, so now your brain.
We understand the vibe of where you're going.
Yeah, commendable. Thank you. It's very commendable what you're doing. Like, you're coming in here and working hard, and I respect that. But I think you could be better suited putting all of this time and energy into something else that is a little bit more realistic. And I think that varies from person to person, obviously.
For sure. I mean, I think you have outliers that
Right.
could make it happen, but I think it's also
Would
like,
y'all have wanted to have been told if that was you? If you were the guy and some other guy was looking at you like, this ain't ever going to happen
I
for
think
you, would you have wanted to
me
be
and
told?
Max were very honest. He was very honest with me early
Wouldn't
on.
that fuel you more, though? You'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to make
like
it.
that movie.
100%.
What's the
That's
movie
just-
with the jazz drummer? You know,
Miles Teller.
It's like you could tell the real motherfuckers, you could tell them they ain't and they're going to come back. You know,
Yeah, so I think even me and Max, we had very honest conversations of like, well, right now, like, I just don't think you're there, blah, blah, blah. But you have potential to make it. And that internally for me, like people doubting me has always been like, okay, well, let me show you there, bucko.
Yeah.
Like even, hey, we had our first kid. Well, your career's probably over. Okay, well, we'll see about that. And then he'll still admit to this day that was wrong. Clearly, I still got 4 kids now. I mean, I think depending on the level you're trying to qualify for, there's definitely a time of like, you're probably past that if it's like, oh, I'm just trying to make the age group. Like, that might be extended from someone trying to qualify for semis. Or if it's like my goal is the games, like if you're probably in your mid-30s, it's probably not going to happen.
I was just going to
need
say,
time.
Numerically, like if you wanted to set a number to it, obviously there'd be some degrees of difference on either side here. But I think if you're like mid-20s, coming in fresh, you've never done CrossFit before, and you're wanting to make the games in the open division, you're getting close to it being too late, unless you're like a freak athlete that was really good in another sport.
So many, the background. What was your sport?
Yeah.
And like, if you're a football player, if you were a sprinter, like, I feel like a lot of what was my sports background would change that.
It's possible that like a 28-year-old could come in that was like a freak at something else and just pick up on everything really quickly and do it, but I think that'd be very unlikely.
Yeah. I don't think but I think everybody probably has a time, but of course, the older you get, I think that varies on what you're trying to qualify for. But I didn't have a backup plan either.
And I think it's going to continue to get harder. What you said about the Masters thing, too, is you probably have a better chance if you come in at 31, 32, and you're like, hey, I'd love to compete at the games. It's like, okay, well, take a few years to build yourself up. Maybe at 35 you qualify. In the past, that was probably an easier path. Now we are going to be stepping into the Masters category, it's going to be a lot harder for everybody else that doesn't have as much experience.
That's old men, baby.
I'm going to be 32 on Wednesday. You're already 32, right?
That's right. I already am.
Dang, old men over there.
That we are.
Heck.
All right, so Rankin_CY.
Why?
Heyo. Wants to know lowest point in career / highest.
Oh, man. I think my lowest was probably in 2011. I missed out regionals by 1. In 2012, I fractured my L5, which was a pretty low point.
Tell him how. Tell him how you did it.
No.
Can I tell him?
Dancing at my brother's wedding. Whatever. Long story. Whatever. It's not really that long a story, but I danced. And then I'd say that was a pretty low point of just missing out, then coming back, missing again because of another injury. I think even then probably, I would say, what was it, 2017?
Hold on, man. It's lowest point, not lowest points.
Okay.
Oh, you're weighing them out.
Yeah, and then another one probably would have been at the games. Just like overall feeling and experience. Could have been almost.
Was that last year that you
could have been this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was very excited and fired up to go this year just with like how my body felt. But then when I got there, it was a pretty low point.
Do you remember how he was in training this past year?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Travis has had many, many years, but the last couple specifically where everybody's kind of whispering, like, dude, Travis is like about to really mess
this past
dudes
year
up
for
this
sure,
year.
though. It was
Yeah.
like,
No, I think this last year. Then that's what I think was so frustrating
Yeah.
at the games of being like such a low point is that I felt so fired up. I felt so prepared, nutrition,
Strong,
mentally,
healthy,
all of it. I was like, this is the time. And then
It's
those
tough when
first 2
expectations
events
don't meet
just
reality.
Big punch in the face.
All right, Noah, give us your lowest, and then we'll do highest.
I have a quick question though. Have you ever danced again?
Yes.
Okay.
I have. Every
Overcome
wedding I go
that
to.
fear.
Come on.
Let's go.
I haven't done that dance move since.
What was the dance move?
Where you jump from your back to your feet.
Oh, God.
I did that yesterday.
Yeah, I just don't do it on a hardwood floor and like slippery shoes.
Good to know.
Because it
Everybody
hurts.
out there, listen up.
Don't do it.
Highest, lowest. Not that this is easy, but highest point, I would say all of the 2019 games was very like euphoric. I already used that word earlier. And honestly, that makes me think that Wodapalooza experience was up there. Like, we all said that was some of our favorite competition moments that first year that we won Wodapalooza together.
2019 was when you got second at the games, right?
Yep. And I had this perspective of like, maybe this is my last year, like we had said. And so I was able to really zoom out and appreciate all of it as it was unfolding at the games. Whereas usually I'm very narrow focused and like tense and uncomfortable. So not only did I enjoy the process, but I did really well. So it was kind of like a win-win. So 2019 games is up there. Lowest, I would say the moment that maybe haunts me the most, to where like for a little while I'd be laying in bed reliving it and like get the shivers and be like, let it go. At the 2020 games when we had the Final Five thing out in Aromas.
COVID games.
Yeah. I went into the last workout in 5th place, I think, and didn't really know this until after the fact, but if I had won the final workout at Atlanta, I would have jumped myself onto the podium and finished in 3rd. And that would have been back-to-back podiums, which like even right now, I just got like a bad shiver down my spine. Like, that's so legit. That, to me, in my mind, that's such a big accomplishment to podium twice.
Yeah.
You've solidified yourself as like respect versus just doing it once. It's like, maybe it was a fluke, whatever.
I think you've earned enough respect over the last 10 years. I know what you're saying about that, but I mean, you start to think of what has accomplished to that point. Like, you should still respect the whole.
What do you think about when you you said it keeps you up at night? Sometimes?
Right. I was gonna say I'm gonna finish that thought. So I didn't know that going into the workout, and I found out after. But during that workout, which was super long and difficult, I was in 1st place for a little bit. Like, I finished all the gymnastics and went out for the final mile run with a weighted vest in 1st. Haters out there, yes, I know Matt Frazier probably could have beat me if he wanted to, because he ended up like hanging back with Tia. They wanted to finish holding hands and crossing the finish line together.
You just wanted them to have that.
Regardless, Matt was behind me. I was in 1st. My body was shutting down. It was literally, there was a mile run between me and getting on the podium again, and I could not continuously run. I stopped during that mile run probably 4 or 5 times to walk a little bit because my adductors, my glutes, my calves were all cramping. And it was just so painful, like the memory I have of Matt and Tia coming around the corner, passing me and just like separating that gap. And as I watched them finish ahead of me, I was like, Max actually said to me, he was standing on the sideline at a certain point, and he was like, if you catch him, you get on the podium with like maybe 800 meters to go or 600 meters to go. And I literally couldn't. I was just like, I can't. My body won't let me. Like, I want to really bad. That motivates me a lot, but I just can't. And so
what does that feel like?
I don't know. It doesn't happen often. Have you felt that probably once or twice in your whole career?
Yeah, where like you just can't physically keep going.
Yeah, and it sounds like an excuse, and I feel like it's an excuse when I say it, but I as much as I wanted to, like,
I mean, your body's just shutting down.
Sprint, like, come on, it's only 600 meters left. I tried, and it was just like,
I mean,
nope.
I think you can even tell watching videos of like the marathon people finishing, and like they can't. That's kind of to a degree what's taking place in your body. Granted, I didn't just run a marathon, but like the
whole
6
weekend
days of
and that
competition,
workout itself, and
I think all of those things built up. Like, you want to push, and mentally you feel great, but like you can't.
Yeah, I think I was
like
under-fueled, exhausted. There was nobody there. It was like a mentally, emotionally really weird experience. So anyway, that is a low point that I feel like that was one of those like what if moments. Like, if only I had pushed a little harder, where you go back and you're like, could I have? You start to doubt yourself. You're like, in the moment, I know I couldn't have, but could I have?
Yeah, you always play it back that way. I think one of my highs was probably snatching 300.
That's pretty
At
cool.
the semifinal in Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
I think it was just all the years that I struggled with snatch, from like when I first got into CrossFit to all the time and dedication to working on movement, to keeping my patterns better, to like retraining the snatch again once those positions improved. And then to finally, like, there was a moment, I think it was like 2 weeks before we tested, and I just missed 297 or something. And
like
I was
100 times.
yeah. And I was like, dang it. And Max is like, it'll count when it's time. And I was like, I don't know. Wow. And I just remember like hitting, I think it was 275 was the first one. And then I went I think it was 85 after that. And then like 6 other people hit 300 in the heat. And I remember
that's for the setup, for if people don't remember, is you were in the.
I was the last one to
last
snatch.
one.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're watching everyone else go because you were in first or.
Yeah,
whatever.
So I went into the Mid-Atlantic, placed in first.
Because you won quarterfinals that
Correct.
year.
Yeah. So that was like the final
Wide.
seed. Yeah. And then, so I'm the last one to snatch in the format of what it was. So I'm seeing all the people that are hitting 300 before me.
I'm sure was nerve wracking.
Yeah. And my original plan was to go 295, 275, 85, 95. That should be like a top 5. Well, apparently it's not anymore. And everybody snatched. I think it was 5 or 6 people in that heat that had 300. And I turned around and looked at Max, and I was like, should I do it? And he's like, can you hit it? And I just remember shrugging my shoulders like, I don't know.
Hope so.
Ended up throwing 300 on and hit it. And that was probably one of like I feel like highlights of.
I have one statement and one question regarding that. Statement is, first of all, that's snatching 300 is like a goal for any male CrossFit athlete, period, in your career, whether you do it in the gym or at a competition.
Or
but
nanos.
Or that.
Y'all remember that?
What?
We did it in nanos.
Oh, yeah.
That was like the thing.
That makes it even cooler. But the fact that you did it in a competition just makes it like so epic. That was the statement. The question is, because you were last and you saw a bunch of other guys hit it, was there any part of you at any moment that was like, I should do 301 or 305? Like,
No,
or not even. You're just like 300.
Honestly thought maybe going a little heavier, but I think I've never hit 300 that I was like this, like I have to hit this
right
moment.
now. Yeah,
like
for sure.
I felt like there was a lot of pressure and
Yo,
there was
that would have been a sweet moment if he had loaded 301 on there.
well, I don't think you could back then.
So you would've
had
I
to
think
be
it was
305.
because I think it was like
Miami,
you had to go
baby.
from 300 to 305, and I was like, I'm not making
Yeah.
a 20
20
pound
pound
jump.
jump on
I'll
a
make
Olympic
15. But even the difference, I was like, okay, I'm making a 10-pound jump. It's 5 more pounds. Let's just try.
Yeah.
That same guy also asked, do you have to look elite to be elite? But I think you could look at the screen now and see.
Yeah, you can see 2 different total body types. You have myself that looks
think
like
you look pretty elite.
Yeah, but I mean, like probably the high school PE teacher versus Noah, who is absolutely chiseled from stone. So
Fit high school PE teacher.
I would be, but
Trav finally got his abs out.
they went back
Who's
into
that?
hiding a
Oh,
little
did they?
bit. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but we're getting there.
Andrew.
What if that was your pursuit for this year? It's like 5-minute mile, 500-pound squat, and a
5-minute abs.
5 abs,
5-pack abs.
5 abs. Yeah,
5-pack.
Yeah.
Hey, man,
Hey,
come
Jake,
on in.
That's Jake Berman.
Jake Berman.
Jake, quick cameo.
No.
Jake,
You got to pay Jake for cameos. All right, last
All right,
one.
we got like 2 minutes.
Go.
From your coach,
What
Which
happened?
one?
Max el-hag.
Oh, that guy.
Oh,
Most
well,
painful or challenging workout done in training or competition?
God. He's done a lot.
Let's
of
do
them
training
to
because
us.
we all both talked about some competitions already. That
And
we
if it's
picked
from training, it means he wrote it for us. You go first.
Man,
I'm thinking.
most. I mean, there's probably some every single year, but the one that like is standing out to me, it would be like some echo bike of some sort. Typically, we've done a few at the field during games training that were.
nothing you remember like the exact
The
specifics
workout.
of ish.
I mean, the only one I can think of is the one where we had to do the dumbbell snatch, echo
Oh,
bike,
that was-
box jump over,
and
and
he
I
made
like
you do an
sold
extra
my
round.
soul to
yeah.
finish it.
That was
the
in last
2
year's
intervals.
videos.
Yeah.
Maybe right now, if you look at the top, what is it? Right of your screen, you could click and watch that video.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most painful ones I did in a long time. And then the fact of he was like, do one more set, I was not in a good space for that.
You want to know what's funny? You probably won't like this, but that shows that Max has gotten a little softer. Today, we had a very similar format
Yeah,
workout.
the 2-2-2-3.
2-2-2-3, and I finished in the 3rd interval, so I technically didn't have to do the last one. And instead of making me do it like he did to you on that one, he said, hey, do you want to do the last one?
Oh.
And I was like, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. So things have changed.
He has. I think he has gotten a little softer. He has.
Or he
Kinda
just
nice,
knows
though.
who he's coaching.
Or that.
Maybe
Yeah,
Noah
I
didn't
think
need
that
it,
probably.
and-
Yeah, I think that probably is true too. That he really does have an understanding of like the different. Like we are
Yeah.
two totally different athletes from like a training perspective of like
Would it have been a timing thing too? Was that a semis prep camp for us or a games prep?
that was games prep
Yeah.
because it was like the echo bike burpee box jump over, and then dumbbell snatch.
What if it was that one round that sabotaged your whole season?
Dude, just never came back from it.
You remember our workout, Noah?
That workout or another workout?
The hardest, toughest training workout?
I can't pull one from the top of my head. There have been many that have been very difficult. What I find difficult physically are like mixed modal running workouts, and always having to do them with Travis when I'm up here is difficult because he's very fast. And so I'm pushing myself way out of my comfort zone to try to keep up with him on the run. And then we come back inside and do something exhausting and then have to go run again. And for me,
pretty much what happened Monday.
That just rocks my socks. Yeah, basically. Thanks,
right.
guys.
Well, thanks for
That's all
tuning
we got.
in. That's all she wrote.
Triple clap. 1,
2, 3. Hey!